Dying Light the Beast is exactly what I wanted Dying Light 2 to be. I think this is the proper sequel that many fans were looking for. What started as a small DLC-sized project has grown into something bigger, better, and far more ambitious than anything Techland has put out to this date. And with Techland's track record with Dying Light 2, many fans had their doubts, including me. I mean, let's not forget that game had a pretty rough launch, littered with bugs, and on top of that, the story just wasn't compelling, the parkour felt floaty, and the nighttime horror that defined the first game was almost non-existent. Attention to detail was lacking, and the list goes on about the problems that this game had, especially when compared to the original Dying Light, which to this day is still held in a pretty high regard. But with the Beast, Techland listened from start to finish. This feels like a love letter to Dying Light fans and fans of the post-apocalyptic horror. They doubled down on what made this series so special in the first place. And after sinking countless hours into it, I can confidently say that I strongly recommend Dying Light the Beast. I am floored with how much fun, how engaging, and how terrifying this game is. Dare I say it, but I actually found the story to be really compelling. A Dying Light game with a good story? What the fuck? What universe am I in? And the best part about the Beast is that the developers aren't going on Twitter degrading me, yelling at me to get a refund because they made an unoptimized piece of shit premium game for premium gamers. I am stunned with how optimized and how little bugs are in this game. I think I encountered 2 bugs, one where the rope would change colors from yellow to blue, and one where the game thought it was daytime, but it was actually nighttime. That's it. No falling through the map, no whatever this is, no crashes, just a genuinely well optimized game that makes it clear that Techland respects their fans, their money, and their time. More than anything, it shows that they're committed to delivering a working product on day one in 2025, which is refreshing. Getting a game that actually works nowadays is a gamble. Fuck you, Randy. They learned from Dying Light 2, and honestly, it feels like Techland is back on track. Early on from my preview events, I described the Beast as a culmination of both games, a kind of hybrid that blended the best of what came before. And after spending 30 plus hours with this game, I'll still say that's true to an extent. But the more that I played, the more I realized it's gone further than that. The Beast doesn't just borrow from the past, it establishes its own identity. It has its own roots, its own tone, and its own legs to stand on. It feels like a proper evolution now, not just a patchwork of familiar systems. This is the game that is going to carry the franchise forward, and it's quite clear that Techland is going all in on Dying Light now, and I suspect that Dying Light 3 is definitely on the horizon. I mean, it's kind of been hinted already.
Finally. Fuck.
Now, let's chat about this game and my love for this title by breaking down and analyzing every single aspect that this game has to offer. All of these sections. Fuck. This is probably going to be my longest video known to man, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. Side note, I have been writing this script for so many days, and I think that this game not only got me super excited for the future of Dying Light, but also just re-sparked my interest in content creation again. I am so goddamn excited to be chatting with you about this game. It's been so long. So if you do enjoy, please drop a like and also subscribe. But now, no spoilers at all in the first bit of this video. The spoilers will begin in the Kyle Crane section about halfway through, which you will be warned repeatedly before we do proceed. But now, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I love Dying Light the Beast.
Well, I don't care how high his walls are or how big his army is. I'm gonna find him, and I'm gonna fucking kill him.
I can't imagine what you've been through. At least now you're free.
Not yet. Not until that fucker pays for what he did to me. All the years he took from me, all the agony he put me through.
You want revenge?
Damn right I do!
But before we proceed, a quick message from our sponsor. A few weeks ago, Factor reached back out to me to sponsor the channel, and I'm super excited about this because it's actually something that I've repeatedly used throughout the years, and I can't recommend it enough. Factor, for those of you that don't know, it's these chef-crafted restaurant quality meals that are delivered right to your doorstep. These meals are fresh, never frozen, and it's something I swear by, especially if you're looking to fulfill an active and healthy lifestyle. This is a major key to success in achieving that. Factor's clean and wholesome meals make weight loss super stress-free. One of the hardest parts of achieving healthy eating for me is honestly the time and prep. I'm a busy guy. I play a lot of sports, constantly at the gym, and just generally overall, meal prepping has always been super difficult for me. But with Factor, it gives me the flexibility to achieve my goals without having to rely on quick cheat meals for those daily nutritions. One of my favorite meals that I've been having recently is the herbed Greek chicken and tomato penne. And with the expanded menu filled with nutritious and balanced meal options, Factor has never been easier for you to accomplish your desired wellness goals that you can find appetizing. So right now, head over to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ONI FB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Once again, that's code ONI FB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it now. Now, I want to begin with attention to detail because I think this is the foundation of what makes Dying Light the Beast so special. In an interview, Techland stated that the game was built from the ground up, with every single location handcrafted and personally touched by a developer. Obviously, many people had their doubts, but that statement cannot be any truer. You can just tell the passion that went into crafting the Castor Woods, beginning with the exteriors, the way the world is laid out and how the environments are crafted. It just makes sense. Every rooftop, ledge, and structure, it feels intentionally designed to work with the movement system that shaped this franchise. It makes the parkour feel natural and flow natural. What impressed me the most was how every parkour puzzle in this game just felt deliberate. They're not just copy and paste obstacles. Each one challenges the players in unique ways, pushing you to approach movement differently than in the past. Like, yes, the core parkour systems are still the same ones that we know from previous games, but because how Techland designed this world, those familiar mechanics, it feels fresh again. It encourages you to think outside your usual patterns and adapt to the environments in ways that genuinely elevate the gameplay. But moving into interiors, this is where the beast really surprised me. A majority of the items laying around are destructible. So when you walk into some kitchen or interior and swing your weapon, suddenly cabinets, chairs, dishes, bottles, they all shatter, scatter, or smash apart. Nothing in here feels static. That level of interactivity makes you feel like you're truly a part of this world and not just moving through a set piece. The attention to detail here is insane. It adds so much to the immersion, and it's a feeling that the previous game did not really capture fully. And it's not just about destruction for destruction's sake, it adds weight to your actions, reminding you that you're not just playing in this world, but you're actively shaping how it reacts to you.
Holy shit.
The lighting in the Beast is great. I mean, personally, I think it really shines during the sunrise, sunset, and nighttime times. In those three, the atmosphere, it hits and nails that eerie, dreadful tone that defined the classic Dying Light. During the day, though, it doesn't quite capture that orange tint oppressive feel of the first game. Instead, it just leans more towards like the Dying Light 2 palette, brighter blues and greens, but still maintains a darker, more grittier tone overall. The foliage and trees interject this subtle, warm tones, adding some variation to the world. And me comparing it to the previous games doesn't diminish the value and how well executed the lighting here is. No, not at all. How the lighting is presented in this game allows the beast to establish its own identity. It allows the player to feel that the Castor Woods is more moody, dreadful, more grounded than what came before. The lighting is at the forefront and invokes those feelings of hopelessness while also complementing the themes and motifs of Crane's story. Nights are when the lighting really comes alive. Deep shadows, pitch black woods, and minimal visibility makes the horror feel genuinely threatening again. In those moments, Techland clearly went back to their roots, and it shows. But more on that later. On the topic of lighting, the Beast now features a dynamic sun that moves across the sky, casting shadows and changing the tone of the environment as the day progresses. It's a subtle detail, but it reinforces the sense that the Castor Woods is this living, breathing world where light, shadow, and time all play a role in shaping your experience. I also want to give credit to the NPCs. When they interact with each other, it feels alive. Full conversations unfold where they discuss their stories, the events happening around the world, some major game updates, and also just the random little quirks about daily life. These moments, though subtle, it makes the Castor Woods feel inhabited and dynamic, in that it's a world that exists independently of the player.
I'm patrolling and fuck me, this fatso pops up out of nowhere. Huge, slimy Hulk.
You mean Mike?
It's worth highlighting because in Dying Light 2, I just can't tell you how often survivors would get stung by a bee or hold a funeral for Gerard. And in The Beast, I didn't get that sense of repetition at all. Each NPC conversation felt alive, natural, and genuinely added to the world's immersion. Good shit, Techland. To really summarize my major point from this section, all of this interactivity reinforces that the Castor Woods isn't just a backdrop. You're actively shaping how the world reacts and how it reacts to you. And the game is depicted in a way that there is this living and breathing post-apocalyptic world here outside of what you as the player are experiencing. Does that make sense? I hope I'm describing it well enough. It's like, even though I'm not actively playing right now, because I'm talking to you, because of how well crafted that world is, it gives me a sense that life in the Castor Woods continues. Like this world is moving forward on its own, pushing through and existing independently of my actions away from the controller or my keyboard and mouse. The previous title felt very static and lifeless, like I wasn't thinking about Old Villador and what the world was doing outside of my play session. I think the attention to detail outlined so far, paired alongside Techland's new cutscenes, provides immersions like we've never seen before, even going beyond what Dying Light 1 achieved. I seriously cannot express enough how incredible the camera work and the new cutscenes are in this game. Major kudos to Techland and any animator that worked on this, because seriously, I have never been more engaged from a story from this company until today. God! I don't know who worked on this. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of people in the credits. But seriously, incredible work with the cutscenes. I must praise that not only does this exist as the main driving force for the main story quests, but it's also pretty active in the side quests as well, which is amazing. Seriously good work. The new camera work gives us a completely fresh perspective on how Dying Light tells its stories. In the first and second games, the narrative was mostly delivered through traditional first-person cutscenes with the occasional environmental shot to set the scene, but it never really fully captured the scope or intensity of the world around you. Though, in Dying Light 2, there was a one-off quest with Toga and Fatim where the game experimented with more dynamic camera angles, which I praised heavily at the time, because it gave the story more cinematic weight without taking you out of the world. What's exciting is that The Beast has taken that approach and expanded it across the entire game. Now, the cutscenes just fluently switch between the first person and these dynamic perspectives, allowing the world itself to become a character, allowing us to experience the world on a grander scale than what we're used to. It makes the narrative feel more compelling and vibrant. This approach reinforces that every environment, interaction, and moment in the Castor Woods has meaning, making the story feel seamlessly integrated with the gameplay. One quick small appreciation too, I know I already praised that this game runs and feels great because it's optimized so well, but it also looks genuinely impressive too. There were moments where I literally had to stop and question if I was playing a Dying Light game. It looked that good. Dude, like, I'm actually speechless. This looks phenomenal. Holy hell. This is a Dying Light game. Ugh! Look at the elephant. Now, so far, we have established that the world, the attention to detail, and how great this game does and making you feel like you're a part of this living and breathing post-apocalyptic world. But what are the themes and identity that supports this game? At the end of the day, this is a story about Kyle Crane getting his revenge. He's a powerful character, and all the elements in this game are meant to support the fact that his story is meant to be more grounded, more realistic compared to its counterparts. It's meant to be more personal and more individualistic than, let's say, Aiden. Elements like the music, the gameplay, and lighting are all meant to support the inner feelings of Kyle Crane and his struggles. The beast's identity is rooted in raw aggression, but it's also known to be strong and empowering. Think of it like a blend of rage and triumph. Dying Light 1 focused on dread. It's this desperate world that's barely clinging on to hope because of the new virus introduced into the survivors' lives. Themes are more rageful, feeling cheated that this is your new life and you need to adapt to the new normal. Dying Light 2, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. They are focused on rebuilding, bringing humanity back. So themes of hope, heroism, and good morals are here because we are visiting this world where some people living in it only know the infected life. They don't know what life was like before the virus. They're just making the best of their situation. And the Beast is a blend of those themes from Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2, making it stand completely out as its own to forge its own identity. This new identity complements perfectly because of the location, the Castor Woods. And this might be a hot take, but it may actually be my favorite location in all of Dying Light. While it does have some elements from other games that may have inspired and mixed into it, like the countryside from The Following or Old Town or the prologue area from Dying Light 2, this handcrafted world feels unlike anything Techland has created in the past, and it's quite refreshing. It makes me believe that as long as Techland has an interesting enough setting and location that contrasts with the titles that came before it, the Dying Light franchise can continue to stay engaging and relevant. Essentially, they could copy and paste gameplay mechanics into a new world with the same or more attention to detail that's showcased in the Beast, then add a solid story, and I feel like it would be a slam dunk. Specifically with the Castor Woods, I love this distinct feeling this location has. For me, I think one of the major highlight points of Dying Light 2 was the verticality of the central loop. I just love how Techland embraced this new layout for players because it made this open world game feel one of a kind. Not many games out there right now have open worlds that aren't Spider-Man, where you can scale these massive skyscrapers or swing across these buildings or use your paraglider to soar through the sky. Going from a world littered and built with verticality in mind to the woods was kind of concerning for me at first. But they nailed it! The areas in this world help forge the identity that we discussed previously, while also introducing new gameplay moments, which we'll discuss later in this video. It was designed to feel dense, embracing the natural environments that this location is set in. The more populated areas in the Castor Woods reminds you that this was once a thriving civilization where people were living happily with their families, people had businesses. It was a great glimpse into the life before. This was a national park, so lots of forest, hiking trails are here. It's a tourist town, but it also has some major areas like the farmlands, the industrial park, and the castle. Pretty good variety. I think this area works so well because of all the elements we discussed previously. If other areas were lacking in this game, I don't think the Castor Woods would have been hitting the same. Without a dynamic sun in a place that was specifically visited by tourists to see the world's natural beauty and environments, would it have worked so well? Probably not. If there wasn't a good lighting system that supported the raw grittiness of the story, would the Castor Woods have worked so well? Without an expanded weather system, foggy swamps, and night times, would they have nailed the horror elements as well? Probably not. If you haven't picked up on it already, but I'm purposely presenting this video in a way where each section is adding to the last one that came before it. This game was built on attention to detail. It is the foundation of why I think it made this game so successful. And it's one of the core reasons why I love it. Techland has committed to building this world by handcrafting every single detail, and this is my part, showcasing to you why the Beast overall feels more appealing to me than Dying Light 2.
Alright, time to go.
One final note on location, I think the only thing that I do wish is that some of those locked up sections of the world could be opened up. Now, not spoiling, but basically certain mission areas that were designed for like 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay, once you complete that mission, you can like never access them again. I think it would be great for Techland to open up those doors and let us in. I spoke so highly about horror in my early access review, and if you saw those videos, my opinion largely remains unchanged. but now it's just you, the audience, actually have the pleasure to know I'm not bullshitting you. The horror in here is at its finest, and I think it might be scarier than Dying Light 1. The night times are pitch black now. They're terrifying. You cannot see anything without utilizing your flashlight, making it a core component to your survival when you stay out past dark. Dying Light 2 had the issue of making nighttime a bit too accessible for players. Even though it was nighttime, you could kind of just see everything that was in front of you. And because of that change, the game kind of lost a core part of the franchise's identity. It was a stark contrast to the original, where the initial impression of nighttime was so strong that players would actively avoid it. The nights were a heart-pounding test of survival, and from day one, the original understood that assignment. And it's safe to say that the Beast has kind of reverted all the changes made in Dying Light 2 and went back to Dying Light 1 and made it better. There were moments in the Beast where I actually found myself going to a safe house to skip the nighttime because I was under level and underprepared. It feels so great to be back. Techland did not hold back, and they made the nighttime super challenging, especially with those roaming volatiles again. The nighttime chases and just chases in general are so intense for a few reasons. One, we are moving through a fresh new world that was designed to challenge your parkour abilities in new ways than ever before. Two, because of the location that we're set in, the Castor Woods, it challenges you to think differently. When running away, you can utilize things like tree branches or tree stumps to make your escape. And depending on which district you're in, it could change how you adapt these runs. If you're in those more foresty areas and you have a grappling hook unlocked, guess what? You can start swinging through the trees now. Number three, lastly, because of your beast-like abilities alongside your arsenal of weapons, I guess, you could properly put up a fight against the horrors of the nighttime in new ways that we haven't experienced before in Dying Light. There was just something so special about using my powers to participate in those raw, chaotic fights. Parkour and gameplay, honestly, I don't think there is much to say in this regard. I think they did a phenomenal job in perfecting these two mechanics. In the Beast, the core of these mechanics are quite possibly at the highest level of polish that they could be in this franchise. The parkour movement is what we have come to expect at this point. Parkour is not floaty and moves and feels great. With the location of the Castor Woods, like we said previously, the game challenges you in unique ways specifically tied to this location because of how different and distinct it is from the two that came before. It's not abnormal to have to do this intricate rock climbing puzzle to get to your desired location in a quest. Things like that make movement refreshing compared to the previous games, and it adds its own flavor to the Beast. And like I said, if Techland keeps putting players into new locations with different types of architecture and settings that forces players to think outside of the box, they won't have any issues keeping gameplay engaging for those future titles. Specifically when it comes to combat, it's also pretty straightforward. I will say the ragdolls and physics in here are excellent. Compared to months ago when I played a work in progress build, the bodies of the zombies and human enemies now all feel like they're functioning properly. The extra care and consideration, the attention to detail, it just also extends to the physics and ragdoll effects here, all realistically reacting to the player's movements. In terms of RPGs, modding your weapons, crafting, your looting, etc., it's all pretty straightforward and surface level and what you would expect in an open world game. I honestly don't think there's anything too special here, so like it's not really worth the time or energy to discuss all these menus and all that. I will say the UI, it's pretty clean now, but in terms of crafting and leveling up and looking at your gear, if you played any open world game, you know the deal by now. You know how this works. There's transmog, yay. There's also options to take away as many aspects of the HUD as you would like, which is vastly appreciated. Allows me to record these green screen shots until a quest marker or a zombie walks into me. When it comes to the brutality and the gore, the Beast pushes Dying Light to its absolute limits. This is Techland at their most unapologetic, leaning fully into the flesh, blood, and guts that defy true horror experiences. Every encounter feels messy, visceral, and raw, reminding you that this is a world built on violence and desperation. And finally, being able to play the full build, the brutality just hits on a whole new level. The number of finishers Crane can unleash is staggering, ripping limbs clean off, driving a fist straight through a zombie's chest, twisting their insides until there's nothing left. Oh my god. Now, Beast Mode. Boy, do I have a lot of thoughts to talk about this. So let's break it down. So Beast Mode, I think, is single-handedly one of the best additions that the Dying Light franchise has ever had, and I will die on that hill. The community has been asking this for years, and we finally got it. And for the most part, I feel like it delivers on this front, but they could have done so much more to get wild and crazy with it. Narratively, it makes perfect sense. After everything Crane has endured, Beast Mode reflects his evolution, gaining zombie-like powers and abilities born from his suffering. It's a fresh twist on the gameplay loop, and it's the feature that truly sets the Beast apart from previous games. What I love the most is how it embodies the very identity of the Beast itself. Earlier, I described that the identity here is described as raw aggression paired with strength and empowerment, rage and triumph colliding, and the Beast Mode is the purest form of that design philosophy. At first, Crane is reluctant, almost rejecting this monstrous side of him, but as the story pushes forward, Beast Mode becomes not just a tool for survival, but for a way for him to accept the torment that he's endured, channeling all that rage, that raw rage, into strength. Over time, he learns how to harness it, turning pain into power and pushing him forward with unstoppable determination. It's messy, violent, and chaotic, but also rewarding, and that duality is what makes Beast Mode so impactful. Techland built Beast Mode up in terms of both gameplay and a story sense, which is why I feel like it was so successful with resonating with players. But what's bittersweet though is that in interviews, Techland has mentioned that Beast Mode may remain unique to Dying Light the Beast, as they want each game in the franchise to stand on its own with distinct mechanics and experiences. And while I can respect that philosophy, it's also a little disappointing, especially considering where the story leaves off. Beast Mode just feels too special, too impactful to be a one and done feature. Instead, I see this as the perfect opportunity to expand on Beast Mode and really push it forward in future titles. The one area that left me wanting more was with the skills, not just for Beast Mode, but for gameplay and parkour in general. The skills, they felt pretty straightforward, almost too straightforward, almost like they were just playing it safe, and it didn't really scratch the more creative side of Techland's design. In the story, you defeat powerful zombie bosses, the Chimerias, to recover and unlock new Beast Mode abilities. And while that loop is solid, I was kind of hoping that they would take it further, like tying skills more directly to the unique characteristics of the Chimeria that you defeated. For example, imagine beating Mist, the Banshee-like boss zombie that you come in contact with pretty early on into the game. Now, imagine when you defeated them, you had the opportunity to unlock a spitter-like projectile skill or a feral leap skill, something that actually reflects the enemy's identity and makes each victory feel more personal to your build. Then, once you complete one branch of the tree, you can loop back and unlock the rest over time, or you have to pick which ability you want to have for your build. That kind of system would not only make Beast Mode more deeper and rewarding, but it could also allow them to evolve it into one of the most defining mechanics of the franchise. If Techland did this in future titles, Beast Mode in those games, it would allow those titles to remain a separate experience that evolved from Dying Light the Beast, which is exactly what Techland wants. I seriously think Beast Mode has insane potential, and they're only getting started, so I really hope it does make its return. To me, Beast Mode just feels like Dying Light at its absolute core, raw, chaotic, and empowering. And when you go and pair that with the music, oh my god, it's on a whole nother level. The way the soundtrack surges and collides with the carnage of Beast Mode makes the entire experience feel unstoppable. The music overall is absolutely top notch. Olivier, the composer, has managed to create something that doesn't just sit in the background, but actively drives the experience forward. It fully supports the Beast's identity of being rageful, yet also empowering. It's an experience that feels intense and incredibly emotional. Every system, from combat to exploration to music, it just feeds into that central duality. On the surface, the score mirrors Kyle Crane's revenge quest. His rage and vengeance leak through with heavy, chaotic tones, sinking the brutality of combat and the adrenaline of survival. But beneath that, there's something more. In those quieter moments, you can catch faint threads of resilience, whispers of strength, and overcoming impossible odds. It reminds you that the Beast isn't only a story of destruction, but it's also one of survival and empowerment.
Join us when you're ready, Kyle.
What makes the soundtrack so powerful is how seamless it interacts with the gameplay. Certain melodies and uneasy tones heighten the tension, letting you feel the oppressive weight of the Castor Woods and the darkness that lurks here. When night falls and the chases begin, the music grows sharper. The music adds to the tension of those volatiles chasing and breathing down your neck. When combat occurs, it surges into fast, pounding rhythms that fuel your adrenaline and hammer home the urgency. Most of the boss fights in the Beast come with their own unique musical themes too, each one tailored to their personality and chaos of the encounter. This not only makes every fight feel distinct, but also adds an extra layer of identity because the score itself becomes part of the boss's presence. The music doesn't just accompany the battle, it defines it. What I love the most is that Olivier still pays homage to Dying Light 1 with subtle callbacks, familiar motifs that echoes the franchise's origins. It sprinkles in just enough to tie the Beast to its legacy without ever holding it back. It isn't just music, it's the heartbeat of the game, carrying forward the spirit of Dying Light while evolving it into something far more dynamic and alive. The one thing I did wish the Beast had was adaptive music during parkour. So for anyone unaware, adaptive music is composed in a way that reacts in real time to what's happening on the screen. In Dying Light 2 specifically, the soundtrack reacted dynamically to your parkour actions, building momentum as your runs got longer. It created a next level immersion for the player. It also felt seamless moving from exploration into combat, or even just sprinting across rooftops, because the soundtrack reflected the urgency of your actions. And the Beast, it kind of takes a different approach. Instead of adaptive tracks, the music is much more restrained and focuses on the inner feelings of Kyle here. And they purposely did this because they wanted to leave space for environmental sounds and have the soundtrack only step in at key moments, which I do understand. It fits the game's darker, more personal tone rather than trying to score every movement, so no issue there. I'm selfish here. I'm just a sucker for adaptive and dynamic music, and I think it's nothing short of incredible, but I would have loved to have seen it here. Again, that does not diminish the work on this soundtrack. It is incredible. It's still dynamic at the end of the day, just not in the same way as it was in Dying Light 2. But something I did appreciate and is worth calling out, and you can tell that they wanted the driving in the Beast to have this very moody atmosphere. So with what they did here, they crafted songs specifically for driving when you're out in the open world. And by them doing this, it invokes certain emotions and feelings that you get when you're driving about. The music enhances the identity of driving because you can't get it anywhere else in the game. Kinda crazy. And then obviously the more fuel that you have, the longer you can drive and hear more of those creations. And some other moments too that are worth mentioning, like when you're fighting in the open world, the music overall just has some degree of intensity from it when you're attacking from a range. But as you get closer into your enemies, the music starts to incorporate drums and heavier instruments to electrify the moment and have it hit even harder. Like I said, the music is still dynamic and reacts to what's happening on screen, just in different ways that doesn't apply to parkour. And it is so goddamn good. I can't get enough of this soundtrack. I'm convinced that if you have a man moaning in a Dying Light soundtrack, you know it's going to slap hard. Okay, now, we are probably reaching the halfway point of the sections I have outlined. I have been recording for hours, I want to die. But before we do proceed, if you can drop a like or a comment, it will really go a long way in supporting this channel. I'm gonna be honest, if you're anything like me, I don't do any of that shit when some of my favorite YouTubers call it out. I'm just a viewer. I don't want to interact with anything. But seriously, I can't express enough how helpful that like 2 to 3 second little interaction is for this channel. So please, if you do enjoy this video, let me know. It goes a long way. And I'm also going to be working on a Dead Island 2 video or Days Gone next. So let me know which one you would rather have, because that'll help me kind of figure stuff out. But the Beast. So let's recap my major talking points before we head into the story section of this video. When I take a step back and look at everything I've talked about so far, there's a clear through line. Attention to detail is the foundation of why Dying Light the Beast works so well. Every major strength that we've covered, from the way combat feels more visceral and responsive, to the careful parkour placement that makes traversal deliberate and rewarding, to the destructible environments that make the world feel dynamic, all of this is tied together because of Techland's commitment to crafting a world that feels alive. The Castor Woods is the perfect showcase of this. The interplay of open and closed spaces, the pitch black nights, the careful lighting, the way NPCs have meaningful conversations, it all reinforces that this isn't just a backdrop, it's a living, breathing world that continues to move even when you put the controller down. If you add in the new camera work during cutscenes, and suddenly that immersion isn't just about playing the game, it's about experiencing the story and environment on a grander scale that wasn't possible before. Then you have music, which doesn't just sit in the background, but also feeds into the identity of the game itself. Rage and triumph, fear and empowerment, and beast mode builds on that same duality, embracing Crane's torment while letting players channel it into raw strength and chaos. These systems don't exist in isolation, they complement one another and strengthen the core identity of the beast. And at the end of the day, all of these details come together to make the entry feel more than just another sequel. It feels like Techland is finally back on track, crafting a Dying Light game that stands proudly on its own while carrying everything forward that fans loved about the franchise. All of this sets the stage for what I want to dive into next, which is Kyle Crane and its story. While the gameplay, the atmosphere, and the details all form the backbone of the beast, it's Crane's journey and narrative choices around him that are supposed to give all of these systems their meaning. And does it? But now, attention, we are entering the spoiler section of this video. This is your warning. Anything from here until the final thoughts section is spoiler heavy. So click off if you want to, bookmark this so you can come back when you finish the game, but you have been warned. 3, 2, 1, bam. What the fuck? Is it Spike? Wait, is that Hayden? What? Oh, he's the fucking beast. I'm calling it now. I'm not gonna lie, this is where I was worried the most out of everything I played from my early previews of Dying Light the Beast. Specifically on the story front, I was so worried. I was worried how they would treat Kyle Crane. I don't know if you realize this, but studios or developers often bring back older characters and don't do them justice nowadays. Maybe this is more so on the movie studio and Hollywood side of things, but sometimes it could be viewed as a desperate attempt to get people back on your side, like a last-ditch effort almost to lure the viewer or player in with nostalgia. I mean, Marvel has been doing this shit for years now. But anyways, when I went to California and interviewed Timon, he stated that they wanted to make sure they handled Kyle Crane with care. He knew how important the character is and the legacy that he carries for many. So for me, seeing Crane come back was nerve-wracking, but how did they do it? At heart, this is still Kyle Crane, but he's broken in ways we haven't seen before. He's harder and colder, showcases no empathy at all, and is less forgiving, easily one of his biggest flaws that I've seen in the Beast, to the point where it seems a bit silly, but given the circumstances that he's in, it makes sense. More on that later though. But where has he been? What happened to him? We know Crane was bitten early on in Haran, and his life after those events had been brutal and a downright mess. After stopping Rise and the GRE's plans in the first game, Crane's world only gets worse once he finds himself in the countryside. It was confirmed that the canon ending of the following is the one where Crane is infected from the mother and turns into a volatile, which makes sense because the other endings involve nuking yourself, which, side note, I was right, can't believe my theory was correct, holy shit, let's fucking go. From here, he spends years running while being hunted from the GRE. His body is at a point though where he's fighting the virus, he's fighting himself. It claws at his mind, it's slowly stripping away any pieces of his humanity, and he's basically fighting for his soul at times. During his adventuring, at some point, two scientists find Crane and they want to help him. However, they are attacked and quickly overwhelmed by waves of infected. Crane, he pushes himself, fights to exhaustion to protect them. And just when it looks like he's earned a moment of relief, the truth hits, and this was all a setup. The scientists were bait and Crane was the prize. He's captured, he's dragged into years of torment designed to strip him down piece by piece to push him past his breaking point and force him to become something unrecognizable. What follows is torture for over a decade. 13 years of pain and manipulation doesn't just leave scars, it obviously rewires a person. He trusted these scientists and unfortunately took their bait, and it now results in the situation that he finds himself in. And we start playing Kyle Crane at that point, at a point where he's fully given up and just wants the pain to end. All of that explains why Crane can be so uncompromising now. His anger isn't just rage, it's grief, trauma, and guilt, all wrapped into one. He lashes out sometimes because survival taught him to put his own needs first. He's overall less trusting of people the last time we saw him. This is why he's so distraught at first when working with Olivia. It also explains why he's so upset when the sheriff backstabs him. It's clear that she was acting as a leader, protecting her people, putting their safety above her own feelings and well-being. Their survival is her responsibility. But through Crane's eyes, shaped by years of betrayal and torment, her choice cuts much deeper. He doesn't see this as a leader making a sacrifice, he sees it as yet another personal backstab, another wound added to the pile. His trauma twists that moment into rage, fueling the cycle of aggression that defines his path in the beast. Thematically, I understand why they're doing it. In practice, actually watching it unfold, it just seems incredibly over the top and kind of silly because of just how he expresses his feelings. It's almost like he can't comprehend someone sacrificing themselves to save others because he's so hell-bent on revenge right now. But I get what Techland is trying to do. But underneath those rough edges, and as you start playing, there's still the core of the man who once made impossible choices for others. He is slowly evolving back to the person we all know and love. It's just taking him some time to reconnect with himself.
Fuck, fine. I've bled all over the valley. Why not donate some to this poor bastard?
Crane's quest in the Beast is fueled entirely by revenge. His year of pains and betrayal don't just fade into the background, they become his weapon, his driving force for this story. Crane leans into that darkness. He wants his vengeance. He wants to end the Baron's reign of suffering, mainly for himself, but also for every other soul who endured the same torment. It's an added bonus, but not the main focus. He's entirely focused on himself and getting what he wants, and that is to kill the Baron. His capture and the 13 years of torture weren't only about breaking his body, they were designed to shatter his spirit. The grief of everything he's lost, the trauma of endless pain, and the guilt of the lives he couldn't save all threatened to define him. These emotions ignite the core of what the Beast represents. The game's identity, rage intertwined with triumph, pain converted into empowerment. It's embodied entirely in Crane's transformation. His brokenness doesn't make him weak, it becomes the very fuel that he needs to endure, fight, and carve a path forward, no matter the cost. I feel like for the most part, the story is overall pretty satisfying. There are 3 major beats and storylines going on that allow us to get to that conclusion and ending. Finding yourself, powering yourself up, and getting your revenge on the Baron, dealing with the Beast, and figuring out what the hell is going on with the telepathy, Dead Island 2, Newman people running around. But man, there are a good couple of hours early on where it's a bit rough. I'm not gonna lie. I want to say the moment when you start hearing the voices in your head is when the game locks in, and that's when the scriptwriters actually decided to show up. From that moment to the end, it is spectacular. It just takes a bit for the game to find its footing. I can't tell you how unnecessary, incredibly cheesy, and sometimes cringeworthy the dialogue can be, especially in those first few hours. Cheesy dialogue and moments that don't take themselves too seriously are fine. I can roll with that. My biggest gripe is just how the game constantly spells everything out for you. The exposition dumps are kind of ridiculous. It treats the player like they can't put 2 and 2 together. For a game that loves to lean into mature themes, I mean, at the end of the day, the game is so brutal and goddamn gory that it can't help but be mature. It's maddening how often it holds your hand, and the Olivia section early on is the worst offender. It's just the sludge of info dumping that made me want to smash my head against the wall, especially when Crane is like, "Oh, what's that? Please explain all the game mechanics to me, please."
Well, I'm sure that asshole's made plenty of enemies. Let's find him.
Not until you get your strength back. And for that, we need to find GSP.
What's that?
It's a biocatalyst that improves performance. We created it in the lab.
You want me to go back into that lab?
Of course not. We can harvest it from the monsters the Baron created.
How do we get the... What did you call it?
GSP. Think of it as an energy booster.
And how do we get this booster out of it?
You're going to kill it. Once you do, I'll extract it using a special device that filters it from the blood.
And this is gonna make me stronger?
Boosters circulate in their blood and make them stronger. They should do the same for you.
It just kills the pacing and it steals the chance for any subtlety or mystery, and it's frustrating when the rest of the game works so hard to earn your attention and actually delivers on that front. I think the dialogue is easily the weakest part of the beast, and certain story elements hold it back from reaching its full potential. If there's one area I walk away from wishing Techland had spent more time refining, it's this. I remember watching like the little recap that they play at the beginning of the game, and Kyle Crane is talking about the events of Dying Light 1 and kind of talking about where he's been and the journey that he's been on, and then he talks about Spike and he's like, "Oh, Spike was like a brother to me," and then you look back at it and you're like, well, you and Spike probably only talked like a handful of times. There's no way this guy's a brother for you. They're obviously just doing this to set something else up in the future, and lo and behold, he returns seconds into starting the game. I have to give credit where credit is due. The foundation is strong, it's just the execution sometimes stumbles and it ends up dragging down those moments that just could have hit way harder if they spent more time with it. For the most part, this is my only issue with the Beast. I'm not sure if I'm going to title this video why I love Dying Light the Beast or why I love and hate Dying Light the Beast for clickbait purposes, but this would be the only reason I quote hate it. But honestly, this has always been one of Dying Light's biggest struggles, delivering a story that feels truly engaging from start to finish. What's funny is that I almost said the same thing about the story in my early access preview, but looking back, I'm convinced I just happened to play through the weakest parts of the game at that time narratively, because once the narrative really leans into the infection, once it starts exploring the other mysteries and takes us deeper down that rabbit hole, the story does a massive 180. Suddenly everything feels sharper, more personal, and way more compelling, and I gotta say, it's so damn good. Now, in this story section, I want to focus on everything except for the plot involving the exiled people. I think that entire plot line is incredibly unique, and that's why the story is so successful. So it needs its own section to really discuss why I love it, so more on that later. But excluding the first few hours, this may be my favorite Dying Light story to date. But first, I must praise Techland for opting in for a linear story. It allowed them to make a more concentrated effort, highlighting the themes that we mentioned previously here. The previous game had a choice and consequence system, and it was just way too cluttered, unfocused, and it had way too much going on, and it was a lot to keep track of. Didn't land that well, and it was just trying to over-deliver when it didn't really need to. But I will say, now, every player that does play the Beast is more or less going to have the same narrative experience because of that linear story. That also manages to tie up a lot of the loose ends from both Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2, which I do love. But before diving deeper into the main plot, I need to show an appreciation for the side quests in this game, because some of those quests are far more emotional and rewarding than some of the main quests in this game. Each one has depth and meaning, which complements the overall darker, mature themes of this game. A standout example is that Star Child quest, where Kyle confronts his inner demons. Players gather these ingredients and drink some concoction that forces Crane to face his past traumas. Along the way, you see older characters like Jade and revisit some moments that shaped Crane's journey, giving more context to his personality, his motivations, and additional events that led him to where he is now. It's quite an intense character-focused experience that I highly recommend everyone should play. Honestly, it should have been a main quest, and it's kind of mind-boggling that this is a side quest here.
Didn't. You silenced your pain and fear with rage. That was our aim. You've got no time for remorse. You've got to fight. You need that dark strength to survive, to defeat the enemy.
But like we have stated, this story is about revenge to its core, and in the past, Dying Light villains haven't really been anything to run home about, so how does the Baron compare? I personally think he's one of the best human enemies that we have encountered in the franchise. The Baron is consumed by an obsession with his work, obsessed with bending the virus to his will, obsessed with crafting the ultimate weapons. Every single one of his moves, his gestures, it's calculated. He maneuvers and tricks people for his gain.
And you just made the wrong one.
I don't think so.
It's eventually revealed that Crane's breakout, it wasn't just luck, it was by design. The Baron allowed it, pulling strings in the shadow to set the events in motion.
So I allowed you to escape.
Bullshit.
Even Olivia was part of his setup, a pawn carefully placed to push Crane into empowering himself, fueling his rage and driving him down the path that the Baron wanted. Every beat was the Baron's orchestration. At his core, he craves control and is the king of manipulation. His chimeras are living traps meant to lure Crane deeper into experimentation, to feed his obsession with shaping Crane into something stronger. And, of course, to feed into the themes of the beast that we've been discussing so much throughout this video.
Revenge.
Bullshit!
And from a gameplay perspective, each main chimera feels distinct, though sometimes there are repeats, but narratively, they're all pieces of the Baron's experiment. And during this story, you are slowly working towards this big encounter, building up allies, obtaining new weapons, and injecting yourself to become stronger. There aren't that many standout characters in this journey aside from Lydia, the Beast, and the Sheriff. To an extent, those play a major role in shaping Crane's story and helping him achieve his revenge. Most characters outside of these three, they kind of serve their purpose respectfully, but there aren't many where I'm raving home about. Not many characters except for those three do I want to know more about, except for those exiled people, but more on that later. One of my favorite pivots in the story is when you realize that the key to gaining the upper hand against the Baron isn't brute force, it's capturing the Beast and bringing him back to his human form. Like we mentioned, the Baron's obsessed with power and he wants the Beast as his new testing experiment because he's proven to be stronger and more controllable than Crane. And once Crane and co successfully get the Beast on their side, everything shifts. They fight side by side, joined by allies, leading the charge towards the castle to rescue Spike and bring the Baron down. This entire sequence is the Beast's defining moment, in my opinion. Dying Light 1 had that sewer chase, Dying Light 2 had that iconic VNC tower climb, and the Beast has this castle raid. And while the Beast has moments that are reminiscent of those defining moments from previous games, the castle raid is where everything clicks because of the emotional buildup behind it. You have this tense buildup of storming the tower, the dinner table scene, which we'll talk about in a moment, to the climactic confrontation with the Baron. It's all executed with an intensity that feels earned when the final cutscene rolls. The final boss encounter in particular is where all the themes of control, revenge, restraint, and sacrifice collide, but throughout the raid, those themes still present, and I thought it was incredibly well done from start to finish. Minor nitpick, but it's more so on the gameplay side of things. I did find this section to be incredibly gun heavy, like they're just throwing weapons and ammo at you like there's no tomorrow. Now, the dinner scene. I need to give Techland credit here. They finally dared to craft a scene that doesn't just shock for the sake of shock, but actually hits with real emotional weight. The dinner table sequence might honestly be my favorite in the entire Dying Light franchise. What makes it so well is that it's more than just a spectacle. It's the true climax, the turning point where the stakes are at their absolute peak. Up until this moment, the Beast has been about survival, revenge, and strength, but this scene finally drives home that in this world, actions carry consequences. People suffer, trust is tested, and those choices reverberate. Dying Light 2 certainly had those big consequence moments, but they lacked the emotional buildup. They often felt like sudden shocks rather than this result of careful tension and storytelling. The Beast's dinner scene, on the other hand, it earns its impact. The setup, the unease, the character dynamics, it all simmers, and when those critical moments happen, they feel devastating. Rest in peace, my boy Spike. It's honestly reminiscent of The Walking Dead's Negan moment, not because of surface level brutality, but because of how raw and unavoidable it feels. It's the kind of scene that reminds you why consequences matter in storytelling, and just why they hit the hardest when they're backed up by real emotion. When they finally escape and take down the Baron, the story delivers one last twist. The GRE is revealed. This organization ties the franchise full circle. It's the same group that set the stage for Crane's journey in the very first Dying Light, and it now marks the conclusion of this chapter. And from there, we're left with these three central protagonists, Crane, the Beast, and Lydia? Okay, I know she may not be a main protagonist, but her supporting role shines, and it deserves to be acknowledged alongside these two. Each of them embodies different aspects of the world and its conflicts. Crane, driven by rage and revenge, the Beast driven by restraint and heroism, and Lydia kind of balancing both perspectives. This setup not only closes the Beast story while giving it a satisfying sense of completion for all three characters, but also perfectly positions the franchise for future installments, teasing new directions and possibilities without undermining the weight of what came before.
To hear your voice, Kyle.
What?
Our story wasn't over.
You? Are you fucking kidding me?
But now you're probably wondering, did he really just say the Beast was expressing traits of heroism? I did. Let me explain. But take it a step back. First, let's discuss who the hell is the Beast?
Who are you?
Let's fucking go!
My name is Lydia.
I knew it! I knew
I'm
it!
Aiden. My friend Spike and I were trying to rescue someone from the Baron, but
It feels so
all went
good
to shit.
be right!
That's the last thing I remember. Until I woke up here.
Who were you trying to rescue?
Him. You're Kyle Crane, right? Spike's friend?
I fucking knew it. August 29th, 2024, over a year ago, I called it that the Beast was going to be Aiden, and honestly, the glow up this guy got is insane. This isn't the same Aiden that we know. This was a boy that we played. This is a man. Complete overhaul, stronger, sharper, more mature, and just like in Dying Light 2, when he's in control, he wants to be a hero. He wants to stop suffering. He wants to protect the innocents and do whatever good he can. Ironically, the guy who is the Beast in here is more heroic than Crane at times. And I think that offers an interesting perspective because it's a stark contrast with Crane, whose journey in the Beast is fueled by rage, revenge, and personal trauma. Crane, he leans into that darkness using his anger as a weapon to achieve his goals. Don't get me wrong, there's still good intention behind his actions, but they are more so driven by the torment he's endured over the years, making his drive more visceral, emotional, and raw. The interplay between Aiden and Crane is fascinating because they embody two different responses to tragedy. Aiden channels compassion and hope into heroic actions, while Crane channels pain and fury into vengeance. Aiden represents morality and selflessness, always striving to protect others and do what's right. Crane, on the other hand, embodies intensity, retribution, and empowerment through raw strength driven by rage and the desire for revenge. And together they create a dynamic tension in the story, two sides of the same coin, showing how trauma and loss can shape people in vastly different ways. When Aiden is in control, he has a clear motivation. He just wants to save people. I mean, the game opens up with him and Spike breaking in to rescue Kyle Crane. And here's the thing, we the player, we know Kyle Crane, but Aiden doesn't. He's just doing it purely for his friend Spike. When Spike gets captured and Aiden finds out, he doesn't hesitate. He heads to the castle alone, determined to make sure no one else suffers a deadly fate. And once the dinner table scene wraps up, the two team up to take down the Baron. And honestly, at any point during this, Aiden could have just walked away, but he doesn't. He seeks it through to the end, showing a level of courage and commitment that really defines him. And I've got to say, I'm really glad Jonah Scott got another chance with the franchise. He absolutely delivers here, and I'm even happier they didn't kill him off in those final missions. And with where the story leaves off, there's just no way Techland doesn't expand on it, whether that's a DLC or Dying Light 3. They nailed the foundation. It's back to the roots that made the franchise special while evolving the gameplay into something more dynamic than ever before. And now we have the two major protagonists together, Crane and Aiden, plus Lydia, our Dead Island 2 Newman stand-in, all set up for what's next. And if I'm being honest, I really hope Dying Light 3 lets us play as all of them. Could you just imagine the gameplay opportunities that this could present? Imagine having Lydia there as a third character controlling the infected from afar. Remember how in the earlier sections we mentioned that Techland wants each Dying Light experience to feel different. Remember how they wanted Beast Mode specifically to stay in this game so that they can make sure that the Beast is unique from Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2. Well, in Dying Light 3, if we had the opportunity to play as the infected, it would allow Techland to stand by their claim with what they want to achieve with each title. The groundwork is already there, it's entirely possible. Now, this section is called Dead Island 2, not because I'm actually going to talk about Dead Island 2, but because I find it hilarious how much the exiled people remind me of the Newman people from that game. I also just find it funny that once Techland starts embracing the infection more and the zombie-like side of things is after Dead Island 2 was released, now that they have proper competition, mind you. In short, I'm being a dickhead, and I love it. I know, I'm starting something when I shouldn't. This is something that the Dying Light community has wanted for years. I just find the irony in it something to chuckle at. But the exiles, so these are groups of people that have sort of embraced and kind of relied on their infections. They've relied on the more zombie-like powers that are in their DNA currently. Some are also just infected and are kind of just learning to live with it. But overall, I do have to say, once Jacob told me that there was a group of exiled, infected people waiting to meet Crane throughout this story, it just put a smile on my face. I was hoping, I was praying that they would lean into this kind of hard, and they did. And as you're working through the story, as you're progressing to the meeting spot, one of the characters talks to you through telepathy, an ability only infected can use to communicate because of their shared consciousness.
Crane, can you hear me?
What the hell?
Don't be frightened. I'm not your enemy. I'm a telepath. Jacob asked me to reach out.
No. The last time someone talked to me telepathically, it did not go well. Use the damn radio.
And from that moment, I was locked in. I was on the edge of my seat from here to the end of the game. This is exactly what we wanted. When Dying Light and Techland embrace the weirder, more mysterious side of this game's lore, it is way more compelling than anything else this game has depicted. It also allows them to separate itself from other zombie media out there, for the most part. But in the sense of like traditional zombie media, you don't see many people out there kind of embracing the infection like with what Techland did here. This part of the storyline, this plot line, alongside most of the sections with the Baron on screen, is way more interesting and up my alley than some of those dull missions early on where you're kind of just running around, putting power on, getting water working. It's the stuff that we do in every Dying Light game that just feels like chore work. But when we divert from the norm, it makes the game stand out. Lydia is kind of the leader. She's the big one that embraces the infection. She's a character that can use her mind control abilities to take over infected like the Beast. And because of her abilities and what she's capable of, I really hope she sticks around in the future. Such a great character, well done, that has her own trauma and problems of her own. I feel like this game kind of barely just scratched the surface of what she's capable of. In terms of her characteristics, she balances both perspectives of our Dying Light protagonists, Kyle and Aiden. Like I said before, like Crane, she wants her revenge, and like Aiden, she wants to be a hero and is acting out of good morals. She's already a good leader, but by blending those characteristics together, she forms her own. She wants to earn her revenge and rid the valley of the Baron, but only if it's carefully done. She never wants to put her people in harm's way. She wants to make sure she can live up to the role of leadership that her people elected her for. She's in charge of the exiled people, who some have their own trauma. As you can tell, know, it's a big theme throughout this game. A lot of them have suffered enough already. Some of them are victims of the Baron. Some of them are victims of just not being accepted by other living humans. The exiled people constantly live in isolation, tucked away in a cave, far away from civilization. This group, it just adds so many layers to not only the Castor Woods location, but the Dying Light universe as a whole, and it's quite compelling. The next chapter, whatever it may be, can be very, very interesting. So many story arcs that they can go from here, like Lydia teaching Kyle or Aiden how to use these mind control abilities. So much that they're capable of, and the groundwork is set up for them. And I think obviously they might be building up towards the GRE being the big bad that we might tackle in future titles. I don't know, but I'm very excited for the future.
Shit.
With everything Techland has showcased in Dying Light the Beast, it's proven that this game is putting the series back on track. They reworked their systems and overhauled the core foundation of what makes Dying Light what it is. Nearly every major flaw from Dying Light 2 has been addressed, and the franchise feels once again more aligned with Dying Light 1, recapturing the same grit, identity, and survival horror roots that made the original so special. The attention to detail in the Beast is miles ahead of its predecessor. I can honestly go on and on for hours about the little things that make this world feel more alive and dynamic, far more than it did for Dying Light 2 ever. But I don't think this video will ever end, so maybe we'll save that for another time. But I mean, one example that I didn't even touch on was the grass. If you really want to get super deep with it, yes, the fucking grass. I mean, in Dying Light 2, it barely reacts when you walk through it. In the Beast, it moves and sways naturally as you pass through, responding to you in these subtle but meaningful ways. It's those little touches that pile up and just make this world feel so reactive and alive, and it's why the Beast just resonates more so with me than Dying Light 2 ever did. And honestly, in some aspects, maybe it's a hot take, but the Beast doesn't just fix what came before, it surpasses it. The nighttime is more terrifying and atmospheric, the identity of this game feels sharper and more defined, the themes hit harder, and the story carries more weight. And Techland absolutely needed this win, not just for the Dying Light franchise, but for the future of the studio as a whole. And from everything that I've seen, from the conversations I've had with the team and interviews, it's clear that they also knew it. They understood that they had to go back to their roots, and the Beast is a result of that course correction.
And of course, we had to kind of look back and get inspired, re-inspired again by Dying Light 1, especially that Kyle Crane is back. But we also know, like, it's obvious, like the community knows this. A bigger number of people prefers Dying Light 1 over Dying Light 2, and it's a very important sign and feedback for us where we should look for inspiration for the essence of what Dying Light is.
It's also quite clear that Techland is going all in on Dying Light as a studio. This isn't just another installment, it's the studio's main focus moving forward. And from everything that I've gathered, they're treating the Beast as a fresh foundation, one that not only sets up the future sequels, but also positions Dying Light to expand beyond games entirely. Going off of that, would you say that Techland is shifting more towards Dying Light?
So Dying Light definitely is the spine, is the pillar for Techland right now. It's the very successful brand, very successful IP. The game has reached more than 50 million players, so that tremendous number of people have played Dying Light, know Dying Light, love Dying Light. We have a new Dying Light game coming very soon. So definitely this is the foundation of what we do. This is what pay our rents basically, and wages and everything. But this doesn't mean that this is where we want to stop. So we will expand for sure. But right now, like, it doesn't make any sense to talk about any future projects. Right now, the main focus is Dying Light the Beast. And Techland, I'm sure that we will grow a lot, and I think that we will surprise players not once, not twice, but many more times over the next 10 years. We have very interesting plans for Dying Light as a series. I basically would love to start talking about the next Dying Light game already, because this is really going to be something special, I hope. And as I said, like, we have a number of things that we are working on, and hopefully they will be as successful as Dying Light and generally as everything that we have put out so far. We are here to stay. We can just basically Count on our players to support us, count on our players to appreciate the work that we are doing, but like I believe in our future a lot.
Dying Light the Beast is a proper evolution for the Dying Light franchise. This is going to be the game that carries the franchise forward, and it's mainly been confirmed that more Dying Light entries will be making its way to us. Those entries are in the best possible spot it can be, as the foundation of what Techland has created for what it means to be a Dying Light game has been reestablished because of the Beast. The Beast is what Dying Light 2 should have been, but it's not the game we would have gotten if Dying Light 2 did not exist. The Beast puts Techland's best effort forward, showing the community and their fanbase that they learned from their mistakes, and because of that, they were able to deliver a title that will satisfy most fans of the Dying Light franchise and also those of post-apocalyptic horror. The Beast is a game built with the identity of attention to detail in mind from the very beginning. Every single nook and cranny was handcrafted to support this mission statement. The way the world feels, how the lighting is presented, the way it interacts with gameplay, and how it supports the themes of the story is all incredibly well done. From the moment you pick up the controller, you can just tell there was a clear vision here. Techland knew exactly what they wanted to achieve and how they wanted to achieve it. The previous title had some sort of identity crisis. Did it want to be this arcadey fun experience? Did it want to take itself too seriously or not? Too many mixed identities and ideas that led to this unfocused mess. But the Beast, it was very clear: get back to the roots and begin a new era of Dying Light. Make nights scary again. Bring back a strong identity of horror and a grounded realism for the franchise again. You can just tell the amount of passion and love that went into creating the Beast. It was love and passion that may have not fully been there when Techland was creating Dying Light 2. The gameplay is at the best it can be, and with the added bonus of Beast Mode, this allows the game to stand out as a unique experience from previous titles. Additionally, with the extra care the story got, that in itself allows the game to stand as a more unique experience. No Dying Light game before this has had dynamic cutscenes switching between first person and these dynamic perspectives constantly. No game had a story that delved this deep into those infected plot lines, and all of this works together in cohesion to create a narrative that just feels more compelling and vibrant than what came before. Crane getting his revenge is the focus. He's a powerful character with a legacy, and all the elements in this game are meant to support the fact that this story is his, and it's meant to be more grounded and realistic. The music supports that, fully supporting the Beast's identity of being rageful yet also empowering every single chance that it gets. It's a soundtrack that weaves so nicely between gameplay, driving, exploration, and so much more. Yes, there are moments where the dialogue is rough and I can't help but roll my eyes at it. Still one of the weakest areas of this game, and there are moments where hand-holding occurs and it feels like the game is afraid to trust the audience that we're smart and capable enough to figure things out on our own. And in some areas it almost feels like they played this game a little too safe because they needed this win desperately. I didn't mention this throughout, but while I was recording for this video, I actually hopped on Dying Light 2 for a little bit. It's a game that I haven't played in months at this point because honestly, no real desire to, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what feelings were going to be invoked when first loading into it. And right from the main menu, when you compare it to the Beast, it's quite clear that these two games have very clearly different goals and ambitions in mind. The contrast is striking. The Beast screams survival horror. Dying Light 2, on the other hand, just from the main menu, it just feels like another bloated AAA release that's constantly begging for your time, energy, and attention. Messages and notifications popping up, a storefront, points, more here, more there. And I think Techland has realized, hopefully, that there are times where it's okay to make titles that are standalone. Not every game needs to have this massive post-launch community support that is getting constant updates and new content. Granted, we the community may be to blame for that at times, but there is just something nice and refreshing that when a studio delivers a brand new game and it's overall a pretty solid experience from start to finish, that also offers a lot to both returning and new players of the Dying Light franchise, it's great to see. By comparison, Dying Light 2 just felt more static, predetermined, overly busy, and oddly lacking in identity. It throws so much at you that it loses its through line. But after playing The Beast, the difference is crystal clear. One game was trying to be everything, while the other game knew exactly what it wanted to be. And that's what makes me excited for the future. With The Beast, Techland has proven that they can still tell grounded, meaningful stories while expanding the universe in new directions. I want this franchise to succeed. I want it to grow beyond games. And now, for the first time in a really long time, it feels like Techland has positioned themselves to make that happen. And for that, I'll be sticking around. Hi there. So before this video does end, I just wanted to say one quick thing. I'm just gonna record this in one shot on the first take, just to kind of express and get stuff out there. But this video was dedicated to someone who I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last few years, and his name was Pander. I first met him in 2021, and for those of you that are in the Dying Light community, you may have known him as General Cock or Grand General. He was kind of like the pillar to the Dying Light community, and he was actually a very key figure behind the scenes on this YouTube channel. Me and him have had very long conversations about like what to do on this channel. He edited some of like the best videos on this channel. He did a lot of the shorts. He was a backbone behind the scenes working to make this a success with me. And I've gotten to know him like on a pretty personal level throughout the years. I even want to say he was the one that put together that Christmas special that we did a while ago. I even got to meet him in person at like a Dying Light event a bit ago, and we spent like full days traveling around Poland together. He was an amazing friend that I chatted with almost daily since I met him. And unfortunately, he passed away a few months ago due to brain cancer at the young age of 23. It was a tough time for a lot of his friends and family. He was so incredibly bright, very thought-provoking, and he just had this creative imagination where, like I said, we would just get lost in conversations together, and the amount of ideas and like what he wanted to do for Dying Light and how to improve on it, we would chat all about it. We probably had like hundreds of conversations just about life and hobbies and like navigating the difficulties that just come with life daily. Kind of like a little brother to me. And I think with what Techland delivered here would have been right up his alley. And sadly, he never got to experience it. I did notify Techland about his passing when I went to California. I mean, they knew him. He had been to their studios numerous times, and like he worked with them like one-on-one for a bit. They wanted to commemorate him and honor his legacy by implementing an in-game Easter egg, which they did, and I needed to thank them for that. I think it's truly special that they went above and beyond and did that. It really shows that they value their community and just how important the fan base is to them. So for that, thank you. Again, this video was kind of dedicated to Pander. If you knew him, you kind of already know the type of person that he was. For those of you that didn't know him, incredible human being who's unfortunately not with us anymore. Sorry to kind of end this video on a down note, but it's just something that I needed to get off my chest. I know he would have loved to see that Easter egg that they implemented for him. And yeah, I mean, a few days ago, maybe a week ago at this point, depending on when this is uploaded, a lot of people were notified about this and like were sharing a bunch of memories that they had with him. They all know what kind of person he was. So yeah, with all that said, thank you for listening to me. I hope you didn't skip this. Seriously, thank you for being you and supporting this channel and this community. You guys mean so much to me. And yeah, I guess to kind of end it on like a good message, value the time that you have and spend it with the ones that you love most, and never take a moment for granted, because you never know when it'll come to an end. So live life to the fullest, cherish life. I mean, that's something Panda and I would talk about all the time. So thank you again. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.